Why do Vikings have Allah embroidered into their funeral clothes? A current event by Chloe Herby. So my current event is on a new discovery made in Sweden that may make the link between Vikings and Islam more apparent. For this, I'm going to have to recap what we already learned about the two separately. So the Vikings of Scandinavia, mostly Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, were active from 793 CE to 1066 CE, also called the Viking Age. Their ability to travel great distances were thanks to the style of their ship. As they raided towns and villages across Europe, the Vikings came across various items. One plunder in particular took place in 844 CE in Sakkal, which was controlled by Arabs at the time. Then later in 859 CE, the Vikings stormed Pisa, but were expelled by a fleet of Arabs. The Vikings followed pagan religions, practicing unique funerary traditions that are often referenced. The dead were to be cremated in their burial clothes along with some of their personal belongings. They often were laid in either a boat or wagon, sometimes with horses as well. The meaning is still kind of debatable. On other occasions, the dead were not burned, but buried, still following the rest of the same procedures. That all changed when the Christians came during late 10th century. They forced the Vikings to stop their popular practice of cremating the dead and focus more on inhumation instead, where the dead were buried, which originally wasn't that popular. So here's what we need to know about Islam for this event. It is a monotheistic religion that worships capital G God, or in Arabic, Allah. It originates from the Arabian Peninsula and quickly expanded into Byzantium during mid-7th century, Sicily in the 9th century, and Spain in the early 8th century. Now that that's over with, let's get on with the actual event. On Friday, October 13th, 2017, Annika Larsson, a textile archaeologist of Uppsala University, discovered the square Kufic characters of the Arabic word Allah, embroidered on a piece of Viking funeral clothes. This cloth came from a boat grave of a warrior Viking woman, excavated in the 1970s in Galma, Uppsala. Dr. Larsson believes that this is proof that the Vikings' belief in the afterlife was influenced by Muslims due to the use of silk in the cloth, and that the Quran states that silk is worn in paradise. This was originally going to be the main focus, but a new, stronger argument emerged from an associate professor of Islamic art and architecture for the University of Texas. Dr. Stephennie Mulder has received many different awards for her research. Her books and articles are used as references, and she has been interviewed many times. Her argument was posted on Twitter in response to the tweets posted by Uppsala University. So, here are the tweets. What she's basically saying is that the textile was from a 10th century Burqa grave, and Allah was embroidered in square Kufic, which became common in the 15th century. If this really was from Muslim traders, then how is Allah written on the textile in a style of writing that hasn't been developed yet? For one thing, in tweet 12 out of 60, Dr. Mulder states that Larsson's final character has the Arabic letter Ha with a hook over it that's not common until the 15th century. In tweet 29 out of 60, she points out that it spells L-L-L-A-H, not A-L-L-A-H. Next, Dr. Mulder tweets that even if it was square Kufic, Allah is written incorrectly. Square Kufic has only one rule. It must have absolutely even, full and empty spaces and be balanced. And another thing is, why would it be embroidered in a way that the reader would need a mirror to see the word? It just wouldn't make sense. The pattern is only imagined. The textile is sprayed on the edges, leaving the pattern incomplete. Larsson had to predict what the rest of the textile looked like for an exhibit. See, this is all that the textile actually shows, which is illustrated by Agnes Gager in 1938. However, it is true that the Vikings did make contact with Arabs, but this textile isn't a part of it as far as we know. There are still a number of artifacts that show that Vikings viewed Arabic as a symbol of cosmopolitanism. Overall, this textile was a false alarm and didn't have Allah embroidered on it, but it does amount to something. It shows the most disappointing thing about situations like this, where historians' research is discredited due to their race, religion, etc. Stephennie Mulder actually received a large amount of negative comments because she was American, and it was assumed that she only knew basic Arabic, disregarding her 8 years of studying the language at Princeton and Penn and her 12 years in Syria, and her various award-winning articles and books. We have seen worse versions of this throughout history. That's why it is important to find them, or at least know of their existence. This also affects white supremacists who use Viking runes because they believe that Vikings were a purebred white race. As more artifacts that are connected to the Arabs are discovered, it is becoming anathema to the white supremacists. The reason why Larsson's textile spread so quickly is that many believed that it would be the artifact to prove the supremacists wrong. Sadly, this isn't the one. One claim that some reporters that support Larsson state that Vikings' funeral clothes are evidence that they believe in Islamic paradise or heaven. This claim is actually kind of funny because all these articles didn't mention Valhalla. One of the steps that a Viking, or technically their village, have to follow is to have a good funeral, including having their personal belongings buried with them and being dressed well to be presented to Odin and great warriors in the hall. This all leads to the overarching question and the discussion question as well. How can historians check their information and research? And how can one historian spreading incorrect information affect our recorded history? Thank you for watching. This was Why Do Vikings Have Allah Embroidered into Funeral Clothes? A current event by Chloe Herby.